Look at Vision's new bandana. So I was thinking, you probably have really nice glutes, but like literally, like a clam barbell glute bridge.
It's game time and I'm up one. Name something I ain't done. Name a body that's my type. Air Jordan, I'll take flight. I'm next level, I'm franchise.
To our winner, Juliarene.
Good morning, buff babes, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Juliarene, and I'm an IFBB Wellness Pro. And if you struggle to grow your glutes, this is the video for you. So, if you guys have been following my channel for a long time, you kind of know that I am very quad dominant, and this is actually something that I have been working on for a very long time. I have been trying to build my glutes forever, and recently, it just feels like I have finally unlocked everything. So in this video, I'm gonna go over how to grow your glutes, not your quads, what to do, why it's happening, and how we can fix that. But first, I want to show you, look at Vision's new bandana. He has his Christmas bandana on, and he looks so handsome. So right now, you might be feeling a number of different things. Maybe it's frustration, maybe it's confusion, and maybe it's a little bit of anger because you're feeling like you're working really hard and you're training with intensity and your glutes just aren't catching up. Vision's in the background. He looks so funny. So a reason that this could be happening, and one of the biggest reasons, is that you are not targeting your glutes specifically. So you are not doing any workouts that are specifically isolating your glutes. And this was definitely me. So I was thinking like, well, I'm doing squats and I'm doing leg press with my toes pointed out wide. So yeah, I'm hitting glutes, but I wasn't putting as much focus on them as I should be, especially since it's a little bit more difficult for me to have a mind to muscle connection with my glutes. And if you are like me, it can be really frustrating. So there's a couple things that I have been doing these past couple of years to really start to see massive growth in my glutes that have made a huge difference. So look, number one, squats were a huge reason to how I built my quads. I do not give them the credit for building my glutes very much because it is still a very quad dominant workout. This doesn't mean that you need to cut out squats completely, but if your main focus is to be building glutes, it's not the best workout to do so. So when you start training and you're really focusing on growing your legs and you start choosing what kind of workouts you're doing, you're not being specific enough with what areas you're trying to target. Kind of like how I said before, the workouts need to be isolating your glutes, especially if you have a problem with your quads taking over or your hamstrings taking over. This is super important. So what tends to happen at the beginning of your journey is that your legs start to grow, but your glutes can't catch up. So then this creates an imbalance. So then you have quads or you have hamstrings that are bigger than your glutes, and you probably have really nice glutes, but they look smaller in relation to your quads and hamstrings. That was me for a very long time, but now it is not the case. And we'll go into how do we fix this. So number one, activate your glutes. And I know that this is probably like a duh, but honestly, it is something that I skipped for a very long time. However, I like to activate my glutes just enough so that my brain knows, all right, this is what we're working today. This is what we have warmed up, because I find that if I do it too much, then it actually starts to pre-exhaust my glutes to where when I get to my actual workout, I can't go as heavy as I would like to. So that's number one. And there's a couple different things that I like to do with this. I like to do frog pumps, and you have your toes. Vision, we're talking about glutes, and you really need to be quiet and just pay attention. Okay? Okay. So frog pumps, where you keep your feet really close to your glutes and you're laying on your back and you're pumping up through your gluteus maximus. You'll see it in a couple of the clips that I'm going to show you afterwards. Second, you can do side abduction walks, which hits the side glute, which is a really difficult area to hit, especially for me. You can also do kickbacks, which you are on all fours, you're kicking back with the glute, keeping the tension on it the entire time. All of these I really love. I also like to do clams where you're laying on the side and you got your foot up like literally like a clam, to just get my body warmed up and let it know, all right, this is what we're training today. Number 2, avoid workouts that are going to activate your quads. So this doesn't mean avoid them completely. For me, right now, I still have an imbalance of quads to glutes. So my quads are still overpowering my glutes. So right now, on my glute focus days, I am trying to take out almost everything that is activating my quads and just focus on workouts that are isolating my glutes. And we will go into these workouts later in the video and I'll explain how to do them, and where your foot positioning should be and how they should feel as well. And number 3, do workouts that activate your glutes. I know that seems like a very obvious one, but it isn't for most people. Especially it wasn't for me. That's why I have been working so hard on just correcting this imbalance and really starting to focus on how can I hit my glutes in the most effective way when I go to the gym. Number 4, find what workouts work for you. And I know this can be really broad and it can be really annoying when everyone's like, find what works for you, but it's so true, because how I lift and what I feel and what my mind to muscle connection is going to click with me, it's not going to with you. So for example, let's take a hip thrust, barbell hip thrust versus a barbell glute bridge. So most people, when they're doing a barbell hip thrust, they're gonna feel it in their glutes. But there's some people that feel it in their quads and their hamstrings and it starts to take over, and then you completely lose the connection with your glutes. On the other hand, maybe the person who does feel that workout, the hip thrust in their glutes and their hamstring, would do better doing a barbell glute bridge, where you still have the barbell on your hips, but you're on the floor and you have your shoulders on the floor and you are hinging from your hips. So it's a different way to hit it, but you might feel it a little bit better in your glutes.
For reverse hypers, you're going to want to keep your lower abdomen aligned over the edge of the reverse hyper machine. Grip the outside of the bench or the handles of the reverse hyper. Allow your legs to hang, then raise and spread your legs, squeezing your glutes at the top. You can also do this workout with just body weight, as it is still very effective. You can also do this workout on a bench if you don't have a reverse hyper machine. For barbell hip thrust, you want to position the bottom of your shoulder blades along the front of a secured bench. Roll the barbell over your hips and assume a narrow hip thrust stance. With your feet out in front of you, drive through your heels and raise your hips into the barbell. Make sure you keep your chin tucked. You can also add a band around your knees for more resistance. For barbell glute bridges, you want to sit on the ground with your legs straight and then roll the barbell over your legs. Make sure the bar pad is centered on the bar and that the bar is centered on your hips. From there, have a wide grip on the bar, spacing your hands far enough apart so there's a slight bend in your elbows. Once you have your grip, slide your feet back and assume the glute bridge stance. Your feet should be straight or slightly turned out. Keep the barbell positioned over your hips and drive your heels into the ground and thrust your hips into the bar. You can also add a band here for resistance. For glute-focused extensions, to set up, adjust the pad as high up on your thighs as it can be. Turn your feet about roughly 45 degrees, round your back, and fold your arms over your chest and tuck your chin in. Drive your hips forcefully into the pad and squeeze your glutes at the top. Make sure to keep your back rounded and hold the contraction at the top at a slight pause. For banded hip abductions, position a glute band above your knees and sit on a bench. Assume a medium to wide stance so that your knees are slightly inward. Drive your knees outward into the band and strive to reach a full hip abduction range for each rep. You can have your feet roll onto the edges if you can get more range of motion. For machine hip abductions, position your feet so your heels are pressing down into the machine and the outside of your legs are pressed against the pads. In this video, I'm using a different kind of machine, but a conventional one is just fine. A variation that I love for this one that makes it a little bit more challenging is a staggered stance. So one foot forward, the other one back, then switch. For kickback, set the cable to the lowest setting on the cable machine. Hook the strap around your ankle. With your strapped foot lifted off the ground, slightly bent and positioned just in front of your body, lean forward slightly and hold on to something to stabilize. Kick your leg straight back, squeezing your glute at the top. For cable pull-throughs, use a rope attachment grip. Have your thumbs forward and your palms facing each other. Take the slack out of the cable by walking forward and assume your stance with your feet at about shoulder width. Next, sit your hips back and allow your torso to tilt forward. From here, drive your hips forward into your forearms, squeezing your glutes at the top. For frog pumpers, lie on your back and position your heels together. Position your heels close to your butt and allow your hips to adduct. You don't want your feet too far away from your body or too close. You don't want your knees touching the ground or straight up in the air. Keep your knees and feet at the same position. Drive through the outside of your heels and raise your hips. Squeeze your glutes at the top.
Okay guys, that is going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned a little bit something. Comment down below what kind of video you want to see next. And as always, I love you all so much. And you are more powerful than you think.